Welcome back to Silent Pew. Today, we're going to be taking a look at the Kalashnikov KP-9 along with the new Holosun ARO, which is their advanced rifle optic. We're going to be taking a look to see if this rare gun is still worth the find. As well, we're going to take a look at this budget glass to see if it works well. So to kick us off, we have Holosun's new ARO, which is their advanced rifle optic, as I stated earlier. It's got a fully aluminum body. It's got 50,000 hours of battery life. And to be honest, it's a very budget-friendly piece of glass. So this thing has 12 settings. I believe it's got 10 daylight settings and 2 night vision settings. So we're gonna throw it on, see how everything's feeling, see how everything's looking, and really just give you guys my overall thoughts on if I think it's worth it. In terms of the gun, we've got an AK style PCC. And as you can see, we don't have our traditional AR mechanics. We've got our AK safety style here, along with the paddle mag release down here. And this is gonna be, I believe, a 9.2 inch barrel chambered in 9mm with a blowback style system. So as some of you guys may or may not know, Kalashnikov has gone through some business changes. So when I say this gun is hard to find, you may or may not be able to find it on the shelves, along with being able to find the magazines as well. But nonetheless, we're gonna go ahead and take our first shots. So these are not my first shots with this. I've had this for a while. But these will be my first shots with the ARO. So as always, we're gonna go ahead and get this thing dialed in, make sure everything is, zeroed, and then we'll go from there. Now, as we're getting this dialed in, because we do have the AK style mechanics, we do have the safety selector here, and then we have our charging handle here. Now, a couple ways we can do this. We can come on the right side, we can come over on the left side, or a lot of people like to do it like this. All right, let's go ahead and get our first shots in. About 10 yards right now. All right, fantastic. So first thing I noticed, this thing does feel pretty good. It's not as soft as a roller delayed blowback. However, it still feels pretty good. We did have a pretty good zero out of the box actually in terms of the Holosun. And if I didn't mention it already, the Holosun has 2 options. You've got a 2 MOA dot as well as a 65 MOA. Technically it's a circle that's going to be around the dot. So if you guys have seen that before, you know what it looks like. If you haven't seen it before, I'll throw a picture up on the screen so you guys can take a look at that. And then at 10 yards, we're pretty much on. We just need to move a little to the right, I think. So we'll go ahead and do that and we'll keep it going. All right, so we're dialed in at 10. We move back to 25. As usual, we are going to get this zeroed from back here. Now, one thing that I remembered as I was zeroing up at 10 is we don't have a last bolt hold open. So that's something to keep in mind with the AK style. And then as I'm looking through this, okay, I'm gonna have to compare this to some of my other optics like my aim point, but right now we have the sun coming in from the right and I'm getting a big glare on the top of my glass here. So I've got the dot in there and then I've got a glare on the top. Now that could just be my head position, right? Because if I'm up here, I don't see that, but the AK style has your cheek weld a little bit lower. So I think I'm getting that possibly because of the style of firearm, but nonetheless, it's something that I'm noticing. I just want to give you guys my honest thoughts and opinions on this. And it's like a hard line right at the top there. So what I'm thinking is it's just my positioning of my head. Because again, if I come up here, which I feel more natural, I don't see that, but then the dots on the top 1/3, I would say, of the glass, dead center here, I'm seeing that line at the top 1/3. Again, as we're taking a look at this optic, that's something that I'm noticing. I just want to share that. All right, so we're dialed in on the dot there. I would say overall, the glass is very clear. I'm not seeing any difference from my left to right eye when I keep both eyes open in terms of magnification or anything, which is exactly what you want. Everything's looking pretty good. Besides the glare that I'm getting. Now, as I stated earlier, it could be because the sun's right there, because if I come this direction here, I'm not seeing that glare at all. So it could just be the direction of the sun, but nonetheless, this could be a situation that you're in. Now, in terms of the optic itself and adjusting it, we've got some rubber buttons up top. They feel pretty good. So those are going to be for adjusting the brightness up and down. And then on our top and right side, we're going to adjust the elevation and the windage, and both of those feel pretty good. They got some pretty good clickiness to them, but I would say that overall, yeah, no issues with those at all. Let's go ahead and get some shots downrange now. Yeah, there we go. So no last bolt hold open. So that last one, we have to figure that one out kind of there, but feeling good so far. So talking a little bit more about the rifle here, as I stated, this is a Kalashnikov KP-9. These are getting a little bit harder to find just because of the business of Kalashnikov in general. However, as stated, we're in 9mm. This one here specifically is an SBR. So we do have a triangle stock out here on the back, and this is a folding stock. So we can have it in this configuration here, and this is going to be really easy to stow it away. And in terms of deploying this, we just need to throw that back, and then we are on target and ready to go. And we do have polymer magazines, and these are KUSA specific. These are proprietary magazines that go into this, so that's something to keep in mind. Now personally for me, this is just a range gun, so I won't be utilizing this in any self-defense situations. This is purely just for the range for me. So I'm not too worried about a lot of the things that I'd be looking for in a self-defense firearm. However, I do like the PCCs, so these are definitely good and fun. And that's not to say that there's not PCCs that could be a good option for home defense. Just personally, this isn't the one for me. Now up front on this thing, we did take off the standard handguard, and we did put on what I believe KUSA calls is their Eastern block. And so this has Picatinny on top and bottom, and that allowed me to put on this Strike Industries foregrip down there. So that's what I have running on front of this gun here. So taking a look up top, we do have our rail on top of the dust cover. And if you guys are familiar with AKs, most of them actually don't have a rail on top of the dust cover. However, some of them do. So I'm not saying that they all don't, but this one does. Also, most AKs are going to have a dust cover that comes completely off, whereas this one has a hinge style. So when you open it up from the back there, it's actually just going to hinge up there. In terms of the muzzle device on the front there, this does easily thread on and off. I do plan to take that off and put a tri-lug on there so I can throw on the tri-lug adapter for the suppressor. But for now, we just have that on there straight from the factory. And other than that, that's pretty much the overall view of the gun here. So we're gonna put some more shots out there, see how everything's feeling, and go from there. Okay, so that's good. Actually, as I was doing that, just mentally, I was thinking I was going to take the safety off and go ahead and shoot. So with the AK style, one thing that we're going to see here is that with our safety, first thing is we have to break our entire grip to get that safety off. So I cannot get that with just my fingers. So I have to break my entire grip to get that with my middle finger there. Then I have to come back down. The other thing that you have to think about is we're still not ready to shoot. So after we get that safety, we can't just go into shooting, which with a standard AR style rifle, we'd be able to take the safety off and shoot. Well, of course, assuming you've charged it. In this case, we do have to come in and still charge the firearm before we can shoot. We can't have this on safe and charge it because that does block the charging of the firearm there. So the only other situation that you would be in, of course, is if you've charged the firearm and then you have it on safe, which in most cases you'd probably have that set up that way, but that was just something that came to mind there. Honest thoughts on this thing, I would say coming from just finishing up shooting the Ultimate AR build, this is actually feeling a lot more aggressive. I'm feeling a lot more recoil on this than I was feeling with the 5.56. So take that for what it's worth. This is a direct blowback system and it is a PCC shooting 9mm. However, my 5.56 that we just finished up on, that thing's almost a dream compared to this. This is, I'm feeling this, okay? I'm feeling this. That's interesting. That's interesting. Okay, so final thoughts on everything. The firearm shoots great For PCC, it's nice and soft. It's not as soft as a roller delayed blowback system such as the MP5, and it's also not as soft, surprisingly, as the 5.56 build that we just finished up. So I expected this to be softer. That direct blowback system, you could definitely feel in the shoulder. And I think the only reason I'm really pointing that out is because we just came off of that rifle build and we just finished shooting that over, you know, the last couple weeks. So overall, I would say that this feels good, but could be better. A nice short package. You could throw this in a backpack. It could be something that you carry with you, you know, around as far as like being a truck gun or even home defense. Like I said, personally, I won't be doing that. This is just a range toy for me. I have other firearms that I have in mind when it comes to my home defense and my personal protection. So moving on to the mechanics of everything. Again, this is an AK style firearm, so you are going to have that safety selector that makes you break your grip to be able to take that down. You also have that charging handle on the right hand side, which means that you either have to use your right hand or you have to manipulate the gun a specific way to use your left hand. And then there's no bolt hold open. So once you get to that last round, you most likely are going to feel the click of the trigger before you realize that you need to reload. Now, in terms of the optic, the Holosun ARO, I believe, is designed to replace the 503 and the 403 series. And for me, it hasn't disappointed. It's a great budget option. And one of the biggest things for me in terms of choosing an option for this particular gun is I didn't want an optic like some of the other optics I have that cost basically as much as the gun. So in terms of a budget option that has reliability, this is a great option. The glass is clear, the brightness is great. I think I was on setting maybe 5 or 6 out here, and it's a bright day. There's no clouds in sight. It's hot, I'm sweating, and I had no problem seeing the dot any higher and it was getting blown out. So I think in terms of daylight brightness, no problem there. The size of the dot is good. The size of the optic itself is good. It does come with this riser here, and it also does come with a standard mount that keeps it a little bit lower, so you do have some options there. I like the riser. I may, you know, test out the lower one just because of the cheek weld with this style gun, but we'll see how that goes. Now, the only issue that I had with the optic, which full disclosure, I've had the same issue with my SIG optic as well, so it's not a problem with the Holosun. I really think it's just the direction that I'm facing and the glare. But when I was pointing a certain direction on the range, I was seeing basically a red top within the optic. If there's a name for it or a word for it, let me know down in the comments if you know what I'm talking about. But essentially within the circle, what you've seen is the top third of the glass had like a red hue. And I think it's basically coming from the, I know there's a word for it, but it's coming from the red dot projection, if you will. So that was the only issue that I was having. Besides that, I didn't have any issues with it. It held zero well. We put about a couple hundred rounds through it today, and I didn't have any issues with that, not one bit. So I think our final question here is this thing worth the hype? I think so. I think it's worth having in the collection. A couple things to consider, however, due to the status of the company, you do want to make sure that you know that if you're getting into something like this or you find one on your shelves, you may have some support issues. You may not be able to get support. You know, you may have trouble finding certain parts for this thing because they are a little bit scarce. I actually just found a ton of magazines the other day, and I was super excited to find them because they're super hard to find. So you know, I grabbed a couple of those myself. And I think there's one thing out there as well in terms of the bolt itself with some out of battery issues. I've got probably close to 1,000 rounds through this, and I haven't had any issues myself. Again, just a few things to consider when you're getting into this. In terms of the optic here, again, this is a really good option for the cost that you're going to get it at. You know, obviously we're going to have to test this a little bit long term. It's a new optic both to myself and to the market, so we're going to have to see how long this thing holds up. Overall, I think Holosun carries itself fairly well, so shouldn't have any problems with that. All right, guys, that's going to wrap us up for the day. Let me know down in the comments if you have one of these. If not, what's your favorite PCC? Besides that, thank you so much for tuning in, and as always, stay safe and shoot straight.